Hey guys, how you doing? Okay, so this is going to be an updated collection video for my Super Nintendo. The last time I did a video I think was Christmas 2010, and I did intend on doing another video in June of this year. However, I never got around to doing it, unfortunately, and I've picked up quite a lot of games since Christmas. My collection's grown a lot faster than I expected it to. I didn't expect to pick too many up this year. So a few people, including my good friend Blue Tonic 78, have asked for this video. And so yeah, it's a good thing to do as well, to keep track of all the games I've got in the collection. So for anyone who's seen the previous video, I apologise for repeating myself. And obviously, what I think of the majority of the games, but there's a lot of new games that I've added to this collection that I've not spoken about before. So bear with me. And for anyone new who's just found this video, hopefully you'll find it interesting. So first one up is classic platform game, Aladdin. Now, I've said in my other videos, the Genesis version is my preferred version. It's much closer to the actual film in terms of art style, much more like an animation. The Super Nintendo version is a great game, completely different to the Genesis in level design and everything. But it is a lot more glossy than the Genesis. The graphics are a lot more high res. The audio is really, really nice and crisp. And you would think that would make it better than the Genesis, but for me personally, it detracts from what the game's supposed to be. It's supposed to be about the film, and the Genesis version captured that better. I think the Super Nintendo is too glossy, but it's still, if you've got a Super Nintendo, it's an absolutely brilliant platform game and definitely worth owning. Next we have another platform game called Aero the Acro-Bat. Now, I've played this a little bit. I haven't played it enough really, to be honest with you. The main reason being is when I did play it, I didn't really understand what the hell was going on. I tried to play it and I was just getting really confused where I was supposed to be going, what I was supposed to be doing. It wasn't like your typical platformer where you go from A to B and it's quite simple. But it seems like a quite nice game. The graphics are pretty decent. I mean, SNES games, even the crap ones, look really nice. But yeah, it's a pretty decent game. Next one is a Neo Geo port, a game called Art of Fighting. I've got to say, it's a really, really good port, considering it was knocked down to a 16-bit Super Nintendo. I was quite impressed when I played this. Even the scaling camera is pretty well represented. I wouldn't have expected it to look and play as well as it does. But yeah, it's really good. The only problem I have is Art of Fighting in particular. It's a real particular type of fighting, and to get used to their techniques of how they fight. Like all fighting games, you have their own styles. Like Street Fighter is much more, you can get away with button bashing, you don't really have to know the moves. Tekken's a lot more tactical. This one's a lot more tactical. I found that in playing the Art of Fighting games on my main cabinet as well, that you have to really think about what you're doing. You can't just jump in and kick someone in the face because you just get destroyed. But it's a really good game, and if I ever get any better at it, I might do a gameplay. Mainly because I'm just really terrible at it, and the gameplay looked really bad. I just end up dying a lot. Okay, next one. Super Nintendo must have if you have a Super Nintendo collection. It's Axelay. Brilliant shoot 'em up. Really, really tough. Got a reputation for kicking your ass, and it certainly does. But it's an absolute visual treat, and the music is just stunning. It's a really beautiful game. I'm completely out of practice when it comes to shoot 'em ups. When I was a kid, I used to play all the time, and I was quite decent at them. I tried playing Axelay, and I just find it really difficult. I can't even get to the second level at the moment. I'm finding it that difficult. But it's still a really fun game. It's just good to pop on and just enjoy the visuals and the music, even if I can't play the game that well. But excellent title. Next up is a game from my favourite genre, which is the scroll and beat 'em up, which I'm sure if anyone who watches my channel regular will know that. And it is Batman Returns, game of the film. One of the very rare times where a game is made of a film and it's actually really, really good. It's a cracking game, this one. Obviously you play as Batman, and you just walk along the street beating the crap out of the enemies, and it's brilliant. Little techniques like you can grab the guys and slam them against the walls, which I love. That's just brilliant. And it's a really nice looking game. I mean, the graphics are like top notch. Konami really went out of their way to make this work, and I was so impressed with this game when it came out originally that I had to have it for the collection. It's just spot on. Okay, this next one's another scrolling beat 'em up. As I say, it's my favourite genre, so I do have quite a few. And this one's called Brawl Brothers, and this is the sequel to a game called Rival Turf. Now, there's a trilogy of games. I have all three, and I'll show them as I go along. They're not considered to be great games from people who enjoy these kind of scrolling beat 'em ups. in the genre, they are pretty much seen as some of the worst. Me personally, I have it's like, you know, everybody has certain games that everybody hates and the press hates, but there's a certain something about it that just catches your imagination and draws you in, and that's what I get with these games. Brawl Brothers is probably, I would say, the best one of the three, thinking about it, because I've now played the third one again recently, and it's not as good as I thought it was. So I would say that Brawl Brothers is the best one. And in Japan, this is called Rushing Beat Run, and the original rival turf is called Rushing Beat. And the third one is Rushing Beat. I'm never too sure exactly if it's Sahura or Sakura, I don't know. But yeah, I did have the trilogy in Japanese years ago, and really good. The American version of Brawl Brothers, unfortunately, for some reason, they decided to make it so that it's practically unplayable, because you get to a section very early in the game where you're in a sewer, and you just have to keep going in and out of doorways until you eventually find the way out of the sewer. And to this day, I can't get out of the sewer. I'm still stuck there, and I just keep walking through the same bits, and it's driving me crazy. The Japanese version, I managed to get most of the game done. It was pretty easy to get through, but yeah, the Western version definitely got stitched up, but it's still a great game. And graphically, it's far superior to the first one, so the original. It's a lot more enhanced. Next up, we've got a platform game called Chuck Rock, which I've not actually played since I've owned it yet. I've got a few Super Nintendo games I've not got into playing yet, because I've got a massive backlog of games on Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, Genesis. There's just, you know, games galore. I really need to sit down and play. And, you know, I only have so many hours in the day. But I know Chuck Rock from back in the Amiga days, and it's just an absolutely cracking platform game. It's really nice. I mean, when I've played it more, I'll be able to give a better opinion on the Super Nintendo port, but I think they ain't going to really mess that up. I mean, it'd be difficult to do that. Okay, next one is a one-on-one fighting game, Clay Fighter, which is exactly what it says on the tin. You basically got claymation characters, and they fight each other. And it's just really wacky and funny, and it's just a fun game. It's a really nice. If you like one-on-one beat 'em ups, you know, then definitely give it a try. Next one I bought just because it was super cheap. I got this a sealed copy for, I think it was $3. So I just bought it for the hell of it, just for the collection, which is not really a wise thing to do, because I should only buy games I want to play and that I actually have memories of and enjoy. Whereas this game is pretty crappy. It's a platform game, and it's just terrible, to be honest. I can't really find any redeeming features for it, but it was $3 for a sealed game, so I thought, well, why not? And obviously you can see it's not sealed anymore because I wanted to try it out, because I don't keep my games sealed. I don't see the point. Although I do have a couple on here that are sealed because I haven't got around to playing them. That's the only reason. Okay, next one, Demolition Man. I really wanted to play this for a long time, and I was intrigued by the gameplay I'd seen on YouTube, where you see, is it John Spartan, the character that Sylvester Stallone plays? I think that's right. I haven't seen the film since it came out, but I think that's right. And based on the gameplay I'd seen was the first level, where you come flying in on like a zip line, and he drops down, just runs and guns and platforms. It looked absolutely awesome. And when I played the game, I was actually surprised to find that it's not at all what I expected, because you get down the first level, but then it sort of goes like Chaos Engine on the second level, and it's all top down, and it's really strange how the game just completely switches on you. But it's really playable and it's really fun, and I've got to say, it's another decent film game. They actually did a cracking job on it. I need to put some more hours into it and get further into the game and see what it progresses like. But yeah, so far very impressive, and not a bad looking game either graphically. Next we have Desert Strike. Now, there's a series of games. I mean, I think most people know, it's like Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, Soviet Strike, Nuclear Strike was another one. There might be more, I don't know, but those are the ones I can think of. And this is the one, Return to the Gulf, as it says on the front there. And basically you just fly a helicopter around blowing shit up. So that's all you need to know. Nice graphics, great audio, and a helicopter with missiles and little people getting shot. I mean, it's great. Okay, next up is a Nintendo classic. You can't go wrong with this. Donkey Kong Country from Rare, one of the best developers in the industry. And it's just, to this day, still an absolutely astounding game. I have to say, when you put this on the Super Nintendo now, it's actually quite impressive how well it holds up after all these years. The lighting effects and the attempt to make the game look 3D when it isn't is very clever, and it looks very impressive. It's just amazing that the Super Nintendo is actually capable of producing a game so beautiful as this, and so tightly constructed. The gameplay is just absolutely perfect. It's got that perfect level of not too difficult, but difficult enough to challenge you to want to keep coming back and keep trying that level until you eventually get to the end, and not to get you frustrated like a lot of games do. It's got that perfect balance. It's just absolutely brilliant. It's genius. I'm not far from the end of the game. I've got a few levels to go, and I have been trying, but it's tough. I want to finish it before I get 2 and 3 though, definitely. Okay, next up is another Neo Geo port, and this is Fatal Fury. And it's not a bad little port. Again, like Art of Fighting, they did a really good job of downscaling the game to the 16-bit console. I was quite impressed with this. I'm not very good at Fatal Fury and Art of Fighting and Neo Geo fighters in general. As I say, I need to put a lot of practice in really just to get to grips with the whole technique of playing the games. But from what I've seen, it's pretty impressive so far. And the interesting thing I find is that this game and Art of Fighting, as you can see, in pretty decent condition. I mean, this one is in excellent condition actually, looking at it. And I got these super cheap on eBay. I can't remember if I imported them or if I got them from a UK seller. But literally they were a couple of pound each. They were not very expensive in the slightest. And recently on a certain website, which I love to use, I have seen these games listed for ridiculous prices. I mean, absolutely ludicrous prices that I just don't understand, because I love the website. I just think that it needs to be a bit more realistic, because he's not going to sell the games, because he wanted £45 for Art of Fighting, and that's never going to happen. Okay, next up guys is my absolute favourite score and beat-em-up game, and it's of course Final Fight by Capcom. Unfortunately on the Super Nintendo it is a bit of a mess. They cut too much of the game out. There's no 2-player mode, there's no guy, there's no industrial level, there's little bits of levels actually missing as well, sections missing. For anyone that loves Final Fight, the bit after the train, when you're walking through the tunnel before you fight Sodom, when they kick the barrels over, that's missing from the Super Nintendo version. What was the point of that? I don't get that at all. As far as the 2-player is concerned, it's annoying as hell that you can't do that. That bugs me. With Guy missing, I didn't care, because I'm never a fan of Guy. I thought Guy was crap. I was always a Cody fan back in the arcade, so it didn't matter to me. But yeah, it was a bit of a mess. I mean, they brought Final Fight out. They had all the outrage about all the bits missing, so they brought out Final Fight Guy, which was the same game, but they just replaced Cody with Guy and didn't learn anything, didn't change it and put a 2-player mode in or anything as far as I'm aware. So yeah, that was just really silly. But still, it's a great game, and despite all the bits missing, the graphics and the audio and the gameplay are all still solid and well constructed. So next up, we've got Final Fight 2, which is really weird because for a scrolling beat 'em up, it's actually quite boring. They sort of took the approach of making the graphics a lot better, really nice audio, but then they decided to put two new characters in, and take out Cody and Guy and leave Hagar. Now Hagar's alright, but he's not the greatest character. He's a bit too clumsy for me and too heavy and bulky. And the 2 new characters, which I can't remember for definite because I haven't played it for a while, but I think they were Mackie and Dean. And yeah, not very good at all. I mean, she's the character that I use because she's the best of the 3, but it's just, I don't know what it is. It's hard to explain. Scrolling beat-em up games, in their essence, should be brilliant all the time, because all they are is just running around punching people in the face, and you can't go wrong with that. But with Final Fight 2, it just, something doesn't gel when I play it, and I find it extremely boring, and I get like halfway through the game and then I just get fed up and turn it off. I never get around to finishing it, and I really should, but I'm not impressed at all. But I wanted it anyway for the collection. I like the Final Fight series, so I wanted to get that. Now I haven't got Final Fight 3 because it's far too expensive and I can't afford it. However, in the future I will definitely save up and buy it, because I have played it before now in the Japanese version, and it is by far my favourite Final Fight on Super Nintendo. They did everything right, and it's just absolutely excellent. Next up, it's a game called Harry's Humongous Adventure, which is a platform game. Now I've not had a chance to play this yet because I only got it a couple of months back. Now I know that a couple of months back I should have played it by now, but as I say, I've got a lot of backlog to get on with. But from what I've seen of the gameplays on YouTube and that, it does look like a pretty sweet little game, which is why I picked it up. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't know enough about it yet, unfortunately, but it's a cracking little game from the look of it. Okay, next one is Hook, based on the movie from Sony, and really nice game. Cracking little platformer. Again, it's one of those games on a Super Nintendo where you just look at it and you're like, bloody hell. I mean, the graphics are seriously impressive. It's really up there. It's lovely and sharp and crisp, and The animations are perfect, the music's just beautiful, the gameplay's solid. It's a cracking little game, and very highly recommend that one. Next up, we've got a sealed copy of Jimmy Connor's Pro Tennis 2, which was given to me by Morph up at Game Link in Spalding. I've not had to play it yet because you can see it's still sealed. As I say, I've got a bit of a backlog, so I just want to say a big thank you to Morph again, because absolutely awesome of him to send this to me. And yeah, so I mean, hopefully eventually I'll get around to unwrapping it and playing it, and I'll be able to give you some idea of what it's like. Okay, next up is the awesome Killer Instincts, another classic one-on-one fighter. Extremely tough game, and you get combos, and if you're good at the game like I'm not, my friend is exceptionally good at this game, and when I was a kid and was growing up, he used to play this, and he would just get ridiculous combos, the kind of combos where you just kicking the hell out of someone, throw them up in the air, they come down, he catches them as they drop down as before they hit the floor, and carry on the combo, and it's just insane. But yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant game. I love the music, love the graphics, the gameplay, just everything. And I have got the Killer Cut CD inside there as well, which is still sealed because I haven't listened to it. Okay guys, next one is another sealed game. This is one I got from Ninja's Castle a couple of months back, called Metal Morph. Yeah, as you can see, I still haven't got around to opening it up yet, and I really need to, because I saw them selling this and I didn't know what it was. Checked out some gameplay, and it looked really cool. Basically, it was like a platformer with some shoot 'em up spaceship elements as well on certain levels. And the platform section, the character could morph, as the title says, and you could like go through steel pipes. You could turn into like a liquid, like the T-1000 in Terminator 2 and that kind of thing, to transfer through the level. So I thought it looked pretty cool, so that's why I picked it up. But once I've played it, I'll give you my idea, my thoughts, what I think. But yeah, pretty interesting game. Now for the game I'm playing at the moment, Mega Man X. Never really played the Mega Man games, as I said before. I only ever really played Mega Man 2 very briefly when I was a kid, because my friend had an NES and he was the only person I knew who had one. And I thought it was really good. Now I've heard these games kick your ass and they've got a reputation for being tough, and I've got to say, playing Mega Man X, yeah, that's true. It's a very, very tough game. But visually, audially, it's just a stunning piece of work. It's just fantastic. And again, like Donkey Kong Country, it's got that one more go approach. You know, the difficulty is not too high that you're going to get frustrated. You just want to keep going back, trying to kick the boss's ass, trying to learn the patterns, and that's the hardest thing for me, is learning boss patterns, because I'm not used to doing boss fights anymore with modern gaming, so it's really interesting to try and do that, and it is an absolutely fantastic game. Next up is a game I bought sealed a few months back now, and that is Mickey Mania, The Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse. Really, really nice game this. I love this. It's another Sony ImageSoft game. They seem to have a good record of making quality titles on the Super Nintendo. And the graphics are like high end, the music's just superb, and the level design is absolutely fantastic. A really nice platform game. The Steamboat Willie level at the beginning, I love that. The black and white, and it's just, yeah, it's just absolutely sublime. You can't beat this game. Next up we have a classic, which is Mortal Kombat. Now obviously on the Super Nintendo it's not as good as the Genesis, because it might have nice graphics and it might look really good, but it hasn't got blood, and as far as I'm aware it hasn't got fatalities as well. I don't quote me on that, I don't actually know how to do fatalities in Mortal Kombat, I've never been able to work it out. So it may have them, but as far as I'm aware they weren't included, because Nintendo were paranoid about violence, and so obviously the Genesis version, Mega Drive version, was much more successful because it had all the violence and all the gore, which is a real shame. Then we have Mortal Kombat 2, which as far as I'm aware has got all the gore. They actually learnt a lesson, they put it back in the game, and it's a really nice game. Even to this day it looks cracking. It's a really tough game. I'm absolutely useless at Mortal Kombat. Literally this game kicked my ass. As soon as you put the game in, you start it up, and you know, round one starts, and before you even learn what button punches, they're just laying into you and you're on the floor, and it's just like, this is ridiculous. It's so difficult. So yeah, I need a lot of practice on it. I've never been a Mortal Kombat guy, I've always been a Street Fighter guy, so even as a kid I was useless at Mortal Kombat, but I just enjoyed playing it for fun factor. Next up, I have a game called Out of This World, and this was originally on the Amiga back in the day when I was a kid, and it was known as Another World at the time by Delphine. It's a really cool adventure game. I don't really know how to explain this one. It's a strange title with really cool like animated cutscenes. It was actually quite ahead of its time when you think of it now. If you look at modern gaming, the way it's gone, this was kind of like doing what we do now back then, and that's quite impressive, really. You know, you'd have your level, you do your little bit of work, your platforming, etc. Then you'd have a really cool animated cutscene, and it's just really quite impressive for the technology at the time to be able to do that. And I remember playing it on the Amiga and being very impressed. I've not played this Super Nintendo version yet. This is on my pile of shame, so I will definitely check it out. But I can talk about the game because I played it on the Amiga, so I know what it's all about. But yeah, I really enjoyed this back when I was a kid. Next up, we have another Nintendo classic, which is Pilotwings. And yeah, Pilotwings is brilliant. I mean, basically, it's just one of those games whereby there's no real massive progression. It's not like, you know, the majority of games. It's more of a plug and play when you're bored, just, you know, like a point-based thing, really. If you've played it on a 3DS, you know what to expect. I mean, they haven't really changed the formula over the years, but it's just one of those addictive, fun games, and I really like it. It's good, and the use of Mode 7 is helpful as well because it really shows off what the Super Nintendo could do. Next up is a game I got a couple of days ago. So I've obviously not played it. And it's a sealed copy of Pit Fighter. Now, yeah, I know everybody hates Pit Fighter, and you know, in the comments recently there's a couple of people who actually agreed with me that this is a decent game, which was nice to hear. But I think the people like myself who enjoy this game are definitely in the minority. Mainly because when I was a kid I used to play it all the time in the arcades, and I just absolutely loved it. It got a certain charm about it. And I always play with Ty as well, even though he's kind of the cheat character, so I just used to like playing with him. I also thought Buzz and the other guy whose name I can't remember, was it Kano or not Kano? Or it was something with a K, wasn't it? I can't think what it was. Anyway, I never used him either. Buzz was crap, I thought he was useless, but Ty was the man, he was awesome. And yeah, I love this game, and as I say, I want to get the Super Nintendo version to compare with the Genesis version, because the Genesis version is very faithful to the arcade, so I'm interested to see what this is like, as a lot of people have commented saying that this is pretty shockingly bad. So, wait and see. Next we've got Power Moves, so one-on-one fighter. When I got this, I had a quick blast on it. I wasn't that impressed. I mean, really, I just bought it because it was cheap and I thought I'd give it a shot, see what it was like. It's okay. It's definitely not one of the better ones. It's certainly not like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat caliber. But yeah, it's not too bad, I suppose. Next up, we have Populous, which was given to me recently by a good friend, Fatal Hybrid, which was just absolutely amazing of him to do that. And I used to play this back in the day, like years ago, on the PC, and it's like a god sim, I suppose you'd call it. I assume that's the right term. And I really got into it on the PC. I thought it was a cracking little game at the time. And it's not really something I'd ever play normally. It's not my style of gaming, but there's just something extremely addictive about it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it transitions to the Super Nintendo and how the controls work with the joypad, as opposed to using a mouse and keyboard. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, next one. Brilliant game. Prince of Persia. Been on a million platforms. It's been ported all over the shop. Everyone knows what it is. And it's really fantastic platform game. But the Super Nintendo version in particular I love. There's a gameplay on my channel if you've not seen it and you want to check it out. And the graphics are just absolutely excellent. I like the fact that they changed the character, give him a little turban, updated him a little bit, really fleshed out the graphics, beautiful audio. I love the Super Nintendo version, it's excellent. Okay, next up we have Rival Turf. As I say, this was the first game before Brawl Brothers, which was the sequel. And it's a score and beat 'em up, and as I say, a lot of people hate this game. It's got a bad reputation, and the artwork is chronic. I mean, what are they thinking with that? Shockingly bad. So 90s though, it's great. But yeah, I mean, it's a really basic, extremely basic in fact, scroll and beat 'em up. But, you know, I like it, it's a fun game. I mean, there's nothing original about it. It's always the same old, walking across streets, you know, getting on buzzies and battering people, and it's just easy. It's just, you know, when you don't want to play a hard game or an intelligent game, you pop that on and it's just, you know, kills a couple of hours. Next up we have Rocky Rodent, which is a platform game from Ireland. And I've played this a bit and it's pretty damn good. I was quite impressed. Really nice graphics. Pretty cool little game actually. It's pretty easy to get into platformer as well. Some nice little touches on it as well, which I was quite impressed with. And so far, It's not been bad at all, so I'm glad I picked this up. It was well worth the money. Next one I picked up was Skuljagger, which is a crazy pirate themed platform game. It's a really strange game. I don't know how to explain it, and I'm going to have to do a gameplay at some point because it's really basic and simplistic, but extremely fun. When I popped it in, I didn't know what to expect, and I played it, and I was like, this is great. I really got into it, and I was there for a couple of hours really getting involved, and it's an interesting game, so I'll definitely do a gameplay and show this one off so everyone can have a look and see what they think. Okay, obviously this one is a classic, everyone knows what this is, Street Fighter II from Capcom. It's just, what can I say that hasn't been said, it's a phenomenon. It's my favourite one-on-one beat 'em up, my favourite game of all time really, if I'm honest. Street Fighter 2, to this day I can go back and play this and never get bored. I think the graphics hold up well, I think the gameplay is absolutely solid, the characters are iconic, the theme tunes for every level, everyone knows them, they can hum them. I mean, you just can't go wrong. Capcom created an absolute classic when they made this game. Don't know how they did it, but they really hit the nail on the head. It's just sublime. The American version that I own is better than the British version because I had played the PAL version, which my friend had. And when I was a kid, I didn't notice it, obviously, but as an adult, Jesus, man, the 50Hz kills it. It's just absolutely criminal. It's so slow, it's just unplayable, I thought. The 60Hz version is far superior. Next up, this is my favourite game of all time, and it is Street Fighter II Turbo. So same game, faster game, but slightly improved graphics, more characters to choose from, including the bosses that you can use. You've got new outfits as well for your characters. I absolutely love this game to bits. It amazes me that after all this time I can still play this game, and it still has that perfect feel that it had when I was a teenager. It's not even a nostalgic feel, it just feels like I'm a kid again when I play this. It's brilliant. And for me personally, none of the Street Fighters, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 4, none of them have come close to Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 is the epitome of Street Fighter, it was the best. Street Fighter 4 I have a lot of issues with, mostly about the presentation, not the actual game itself, because the gameplay is fine, but the presentation has a lot to be desired. They need to sort that out, but that's because it's made by a Western development team, it wasn't made by the Japanese team, so that's why it's weird. Okay, next one, Super Street Fighter 2. This is the most disappointing game in the 4 games that were released in the Street Fighter series on Super Nintendo. For me at least anyway. Mainly because the graphics are brilliant, they've upgraded it, lovely. But the audio took a major nosedive, the sound effects are really stupid and tinny and they haven't got the crunch that the first 2 games had, they sound really weird. The music sounds crap, it's remixed and weak, and it doesn't have the impact. They really messed up with this one, I thought. I don't like this one at all. I've tried to go back and play it a few times to try and find something redeemable about it, but other than the graphics there really isn't. Obviously it's solid gameplay, but I mean, that's a given with Street Fighter. Now I haven't got Street Fighter Alpha 2 yet. That is one I definitely want to add to my collection because I love that game on the SNES, and like Donkey Kong Country, it's one of those games that just blows my mind that they can actually do that on the SNES. I just don't understand how they managed it. So yeah, I definitely want to get that, but it is quite expensive, so it's going to take some time. Next one, game donated to me by my good friend Richard Hoki. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I always get your name wrong, I'm sorry dude. And it is of course Super Castlevania IV. Now if you're a Castlevania fan you know what this is. I mean, this game is just bloody amazing. It's the first Castlevania game I ever played as a kid, and it's really weird playing this as your first Castlevania because it plays like none of the other Castlevanias. It's completely different style. There's so many better things I find. After playing like Dracula X and playing like the Castlevania Chronicles on PS1, which is based around the original Castlevania as far as I'm aware, they are so limited in the fact that you can't aim your whip. It drives me crazy. It really annoys me. I mean, in Castlevania 4 you can whip up, down, left, right, diagonal, wherever you want. It's so much better. But I just love Castlevania 4, I love the Mode 7 on the cutscenes. I love the music, the graphics, the level design. The music in particular is my favourite thing. Some of the music on this game is just stunning. My favourite is the cave level when you get the rock people. That's just amazing. And the one level in particular where you use the whip and you hold onto one of the rings on the sky and the whole room rotates. It's just, yeah, genius. Absolute must have if you have a Super Nintendo. Next up is one of the hardest games ever created, and it is Super Ghouls and Ghosts. An absolute beast of a game. Graphically stunning, audio is amazing, the gameplay is rock solid though. I mean, it's so hard. The only person I've seen that can play this game properly is LMA187. A good friend of mine on YouTube, and an absolute demon when it comes to Super Ghouls and Ghosts. I've never seen anybody play a game like he does. He did, like, I think it was an 8-part playthrough of this, and he made it look so bloody easy. I can't even get up level 1. It's just absolutely kicks your ass. But it's just such a fun game. I mean, you just have to keep going back and trying harder. It's just brilliant. It's just so unforgiving. But yeah, it's excellent. If you want to see a good gameplay, as I say, go check out LMA187. Awesome. Alright, okay guys, I'll stop there, and if you'd like to come back and join me in part 2, we'll continue on and I'll show you the rest of my games. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in part 2.